The Dodgers take Game 1 in the National League Championship Series and have tied a record for consecutive scoreless innings in the playoffs to boot. Wait, Jim Harbaugh's heart is jacked up and he's still coached? And USC is currently leading the nation in recruiting. Yes, even after a loss. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the Faithful Angelenos Morning Report. It is October 14th, 2024. We are back in the sanctum sanctorum of LA sports. Lovely morning. Looking forward to getting some fresh air. But before we do that, if you like being to know about LA sports, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And by all means, comment. Now, before we go through the news and notes, an expanded look at the scoreboard. Dodgers 9, Mets nothing. The Dodgers just wiped the floor with New York in Game 1 of the NLCS with their third consecutive shutout, 33 consecutive scoreless innings by Dodger pitching, which ties them with the 1966 Orioles for the longest such streak in Major League history. Jack Flaherty pitched 7 innings, which gave the Dodgers bullpen a chance to catch its breath, and they will need it. Mookie Betts drives in 3 runs. Shohei Ohtani scores twice, as did Kike Hernandez. Chargers 23, Denver 16. The Chargers snap a 2-game losing skid. LA forced 2 turnovers in the first half, which led to 10 points. And by halftime, I would say it felt like the Chargers had the W pretty much wrapped up, which meant we all stared at Jim Harbaugh hoping he wouldn't drop dead. We'll talk more about that in a minute. As for Herbert, he wasn't particularly flashy, but he did throw for 237 yards and a TD. Not a perfect game by the Bolts. They have not scored a touchdown in the second half of a game offensively since week 1. That allowed the Broncos to kind of nudge their way back into the game. LAFC Vancouver 1. Ilie Sanchez boosts the black and gold when they needed it most with a stoppage time game-winning goal. Had LAFC tied that match instead of won it, the Galaxy would have taken the MLS Western Conference. The Galaxy still lead the conference by 3 going into decision day this upcoming weekend. Meanwhile today, Mets at Dodgers at 1. It's game 2 of the NLCS. It is a bullpen day for the Dodgers, who will face Sean Manaea. The Kings are at Ottawa at 10 in the morning. What is up with these crack of dawn start times in the NHL? On a Monday, no less. The Kings have 3 points so far in 2 games of their season opening 7-game road trip. What do you say we get to the news? Jim Harbaugh wasn't on the sideline for the kickoff Sunday in Denver. Did he take advantage of Colorado's pretty lax weed laws? No. Did he join a Venezuelan gang and take over an apartment complex? No. He has arrhythmia, which means his heart doesn't beat normally in layman's terms. Anyone else think that might have been a good idea to ask about in the job interview this spring? Me? Is it just me? Hey, coach, you say you'd like to get the team to be more physical. Yeah. Hey, speaking of physical, could you get on that treadmill over there while we put these leads on your chest? For Pete's sake, the Chargers just came off of a bye week and he's not there for the kickoff because his ticker has gone kerflooey. Literally like a Warner Brothers cartoon just popping out of his chest. Harbaugh missed half of the first quarter to spend time with the paramedics. Defensive coordinator Jesse Minter took control of the team in Denver. They gave Harbaugh an electrocardiogram while Minter had to make critical calls like a 4th down call deep in Broncos territory. Now, thankfully, he made the correct call. And by he, I mean Minter. Go for the field goal. Look, if I were a Bolts fan, I would totally appreciate Minter's audition because he might wind up getting the gig in Harbaugh's will before you know it. This is a bigger deal than the Chargers and the NFL is willing to admit. If arrhythmia is not treated, it can lead to a cardiac event. It can lead to problems with your thinking because blood is not being pumped up into your head. And there are other reasons why this is a thing. As Chargers coach, Jim Harbaugh has been decidedly opaque when it comes to his own injured players. He doesn't tell anybody what's going on. He's purposefully vague until the NFL forces him to come clean. So do you really think he's going to be transparent about his own health? The dude has previously had arrhythmia flare up twice. The last in a game in 2012. He has had 2 ablations in his life so far. And if you're wondering what an ablation is, you'll have to look it up. We at Faithful Angelenos Sports have a strict don't talk about other men's groins policy. Now, I'm not trying to claim it's a fait accompli that Harbaugh is going to die on the gridiron. There are ways that you can overcome heart irregularities. Maybe the guy will eventually need a pacemaker or something. I don't know. But you would think if anybody would be relaxed going into a game, it would be the coach of a team coming off a bye week. Harbaugh had 2 weeks to relax, to not overload his system with like energy drinks, to not stress things out. And yet he's in the tent at kickoff. I don't think it's prudent for everybody to just shrug this off like it's a Chris Farley SNL skit. Like there's Harbaugh pounding himself in the chest, desperately trying to stay alive and then acting like it's cool. And yet Harbaugh is shrugging it off. After the game, he told the LA Times, quote, "It's the heart, so you take it seriously," unquote. And yet you coached. A doctor later told the Times that an ablation can be a cure for arrhythmia. But if you've already had 2, maybe that isn't the case for this guy. Hell, with his first arrhythmia, when he was young, he missed 2 days of practice. This time, dude would probably have the headset on in the damn blue tent. So no, this is a bigger deal than people are trying to sweep this under the rug. It's a heart, whatever. Meanwhile, we realize that you can't live without a heart. You can live without a foot, but it would sure help if you're a professional athlete to have a functional one. I bring that up because Justin Herbert has been able to move better since his right ankle sprain about a month ago. Normally, ankle sprains, if they're really bad, it takes about a month before you start to feel like yourself. Harbaugh dropped back 38 times on Sunday. And it wasn't just dropping back in a straight line. Herbert bootlegged, which means he was willing to scramble and buy a little time. He threw for the 237 yards. It's a season high. But don't get me wrong, for Justin Herbert, that's actually kind of terrible. But the Bolts apparently are going to prefer Herbert to throw for the 250-yard range. So I'm happy Herbert's getting healthier. It would be even lovelier if Jim Harbaugh doesn't need CPR when Cameron Dicker lines up for a game-winning field goal, but one step at a time. Also getting healthier, offensive tackles Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater both returned from injuries, but right guard Trey Pipkins missed the second half with a shoulder problem. Lots of Chargers news to discuss. Meanwhile, with the Dodgers, Kevin Kiermaier's career is alive. Kiermaier, one of the game's greatest defensive center fielders, said this would be his last season, and he was left off the roster for the divisional series because, honestly, he can't hit. He never could. But the Dodgers had two spots to fill on their roster, with Alex Vesia, a pitcher, being gone, as well as infielder Miguel Rojas. Brett Honeywell took Vesia's spot on the roster. Now, having said that, Rojas was the everyday shortstop, so Dave Roberts had to adjust on the fly. Kike Hernandez goes to center. Tommy Edman takes over at shortstop. Now, Vesia's absence could be detrimental long term. There is only one lefty in the Dodgers bullpen right now, Anthony Banda. You might be surprised to hear this, particularly after USC lost on Saturday, but the Trojans currently have the #1 recruiting class in college football for 2026. USC hosted a bunch of prospects Saturday, which is kind of awkward, seeing as how those free tickets went for a loss in overtime to 4th-ranked Penn State. But I guess we should all thank our lucky stars it wasn't an ass-kicking. Because I'm assuming the sales pitch is, hey, we took the #4 team in the country, a team that arguably has a spot in the national title picture, to overtime, and you can get playing time pretty damn quick because we're not exactly a bunch of 4-stars on the defensive front. Braden Jones is a 4-star edge rusher from Chicago for the class of 2026. He committed. He liked what he saw. He's considered the 12th best rusher in the class, albeit outside of the top 100 recruits. But USC already has landed 2 top 50 recruits in this class and another 4-star defensive lineman. So again, there are people calling for Lincoln Riley's head. I get it. And yet he got the message about adding and bolstering to both offensive and defensive lines. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Talk to me about the Dodgers being 7 wins away from a world championship. Talk to me about Jim Harbaugh. I'm not a doctor, but I'll let you play one on the radio. And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We talk LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Cortez Queso production. Take care.